This is Change Your Mindset Podcast, the podcast that helps change your life by helping change the mindset of the 99% into the 1% mindset. Here's your host, Adrian Gomez.
Welcome back, everybody, to Change Your Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Gomez. So today's topic is going to be where I personally witnessed the 1% mindset. During the time when I witnessed the 1% mindset, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was average or normal. I didn't think anything of it at the time until later on in my life, I realized this was a 1% mindset. Since no one at the time did these exact things that this certain person did. As I studied the 1%, obviously the wealthy, the rich, and how they function, the things they did, how they work, I realized this whole time as I was growing up, I lived with a person that had a 1% mindset, and I, at the time, didn't know anything about it, so I didn't think anything of it until I started studying the 1% mindset, and I can compare that this same person has the same exact traits as a 1%. One thing I do regret is that I did not learn from this person, obviously by the way they thought, the way they conducted things. I had a 99% mindset. I did what everyone else did. I went out, spent money, had a 9-to-5 job. Obviously, I didn't do anything compared to what this 1% mindset person did. And if I did listen and pay attention, I obviously would have had a bigger head start than everyone else did. But at the time, we're not taught any of this, so I did not know the difference. So let's start off from the beginning. This person worked for himself as a contractor because he had his own truck, so he drove when he wanted and when he needed to. But he didn't sit around, work when he felt like it. He was always constantly working. And at the end of the day, he ended up being the owner's right-hand man because the owner knew he could rely on this man. Because this man would always be on time. He wouldn't say no, he didn't feel like doing it. He was always constantly working. And he'd always get the job done correctly. And compared to the other drivers, who obviously did not want to work all the time and wanted to work when they felt like it, or if they didn't want to drive to a certain location, he would take that load. And obviously, at the end of the day, when you're at the top of the food chain, you get the benefits of obviously when there's no work, you're going to get the work at the beginning because you're reliable and obviously you've proven yourself and you're a hardworking individual. So this individual drove for 30 years. I remember asking him, at what time did you change your mindset? He told me one time, I believe it was Oakland or San Francisco he's driving to, that he was in his truck driving and was talking to himself, am I going to do this for the rest of my life, driving a truck, or am I going to do something about it? Obviously, of 30 years, he did save money, and he had an opportunity to buy a house because back then houses were a lot cheaper. So he had the decision to either buy a house with all the money he saved or start a business. Obviously, that's the biggest risk you can take, but it can also be the biggest reward. So since he knew about trucking, he wanted to start his own trucking transportation business. So he talked to fellow drivers about starting their own business. So overall, there was 6 drivers who were willing to put up the money to start the business. So when the business started, obviously it is a big risk because you don't know if you will make it or not. 4 of the drivers were influenced possibly by the wives, family, friends, whatever it may be, that they should not be in starting a business, they should go back to their jobs. And at the time, this person already started the business with him and 5 others, but 4 of the drivers wanted their money back because they didn't want to start this business anymore because they were scared and they might lose all their investment basically. So they wanted all their money they put into the business, but it was already too late because obviously they bought equipment and started the business with all that money. So it was only this person left and one other truck driver, since the other 4 wanted out and wanted their money back, which eventually they got the money back as the business started producing money. They got paid out because they wanted the money and they wanted out. Even though 4 of these truck drivers were out, this individual still kept on with the business because he knew he could make it and he knew what it takes to grow a business and how much work and discipline and consistency it takes. And he First of all, the biggest important, he believed in himself. He knew he could do it. And I remember asking him one time, on a scale of 1 to 10, how scary was it to start that business? And he said it was a 4. Because he told me he was not as scared as most majority people are, because he knew he could do it. And he knew he was capable of doing it. So this is what I witnessed from this individual. This individual obviously owned his own business, so he had to put in the work. At the beginning, it was just him and his other truck drivers. And obviously they had no other truck drivers, so it was only them two, so they couldn't send out other truck drivers to complete loads. So he would tell me that once he was done with the business for the day, he would go hop in the truck and he would go deliver the loads. Since he had to produce money and he had to put it into the business, he had to do it himself. Of course, there was days that he was tired, because obviously if you're working on your business and then right after you have to hop in a truck and deliver loads for hours, you're going to be tired. But he knew what it took and he was disciplined and he did it. And if the business did fail, all that money he invested, that which could have gone into a house, it would have been for nothing. So he would have lost all that money he invested into the business. So whatever had to be done, he did it. Because obviously if he didn't put all his hard work into the business, he would just go back to being a truck driver for the rest of his life. And he started this at the age of 50. So it's never too late to ever change your mindset. So I observed a lot of traits from this individual. So obviously when this person had to get up for work, they had their alarm. And when the alarm rang, this person didn't sleep in. He didn't put the snooze button. He got straight up and he got ready and he went to his business and worked on it. Obviously he was always the first one there because it's his business. And obviously that's going to mean the most to you. But throughout the whole time, the 10 years while he had that business, he would always get up. I never saw him sleep in. Every time the alarm rang, he would get up. And he would never press that snooze button. And obviously I'd wake myself up because obviously the alarm was pretty loud. I witnessed it, and at the time, I didn't think anything of it. But I just thought, well, it must be nice I get to sleep in. And it's unfortunate that he has to go get up and go work. But that was one of the traits of the 1%. During the 10 years, this individual never called out sick. He never took a vacation. He always worked, and he was always consistent, and he was always disciplined. I never heard this individual complaining about working, or oh, I have to get up, or I don't want to go work. I never heard that in 10 years from this person. It was just get it done, which this person always did. He wouldn't always go out spending his money, going on vacations, or blowing all the money he worked hard for. He obviously reinvested it back into his business to obviously grow it. But what I did learn from this individual, that he did say, you still have to reward yourself. Because obviously if you work all the time, you're not going to see the rewards of it. So obviously him and his other truck driver who was still in the business with him, after all these years, they decided to go treat themselves because obviously they were working hard. So they went out and they both got themselves 2 new cars. Obviously this didn't come out of their own pockets. This came out from the business. So obviously one of the perks we've talked about of owning a business, it's a tax deduction. So the business is going to be paying for that. So I realized that as well, that you do have to treat yourself for all the hard work you're doing, because you don't want to be work and no rewards. So as the business grew, they were able to hire people for the office. They were able to get other truck drivers where they can send out on loads, since they didn't have to do that anymore, because now they have their own truck drivers that they can send out, and they didn't have to do what they had to do back in the day when they started the business, where they had to go do the loads themselves. Now they grew to a point where they started hiring people, and those truck drivers can do it for them. And when they're done with the business for the day, they didn't have to go out anymore. They could just go straight home. So every time I witnessed, before I went to bed, this individual will always be on his phone listening. He would be listening to how the economy is doing, what's happening in the world, financially, houses, whether it's politics, whatever it may be. Just obviously, he was always consistently educating himself every single day. And at the time, obviously, I didn't think anything of it. But now thinking back, I thought that's what the 1% do. They're always constantly learning, and they're always a student. They're always listening and learning. And it's amazing that that was the 1% mindset at the time that I viewed and witnessed. And now, till this day, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm always educating myself every day on what's going on in the world. And it's funny how it works, and now I have that mindset. But you have to do it yourself. No one's going to tell you to do it. No one's going to force you to do it. I mean, if you want to watch TV and watch programs that not going to educate you what's really going on in the world, I mean, at the end of the day, you're never going to get ahead. And if you're stuck in that rat race, you're never going to get out of it. And just like what we talked about in the last podcast, he had a routine himself. Obviously, he would get up, go to work, come home, he'd work out, and obviously he would educate himself. And that was his routine. And he did that consistently. But not only was this person hardworking and consistent, disciplined, but this person was also a good person. When his truck drivers would come to him, they would obviously need help with maybe finances or maybe their engine, something with the engine or the transmission with the truck, and they didn't have the money. They would go to him. Obviously, he was not obligated to help them out. He didn't have to. But he did it because he was kind-hearted, and he would help them out, and he would let them borrow the money, and they would eventually pay him back. So even just being the owner of this business, he was still overall a good person and did help out his employees. After 15 years of his business being open, obviously it was very successful for himself. He was able to retire. He was able to close down the business. Obviously the business made him more money than he would have ever had, obviously just being a truck driver. So that business did a lot for him. And obviously it's so about the work he put into it. The business bought him another new car, and obviously the business bought him his retirement, and the business bought him a house. Obviously, he would not be able to do all that, just be working as a regular truck driver as he was doing before. And if he never opened up that business and took that big step, he would, till this day, still be working as a truck driver. And all it took was a change of a mindset. After years later, realizing that this person had the 1% mindset and everything he went through after studying the 1%, I learned a lot from this person. And now that I own my own business and obviously I'm doing all this other entrepreneurship, I can always ask him questions because he's done it. Obviously with the business, if anything business related, I can ask him. Obviously not everyone has that, but I'm very lucky and fortunate to have that. And since he's done it all and he has a 1% mindset, I love talking to him and we can talk for hours, and I pick his brain because I want to constantly learn. And since he's done it all, I want to hear it all for I can incorporate myself. And all the traits he had, obviously routines, getting up early, being consistent, disciplined, all those traits we talked about, I incorporated into myself because that's exactly the 1%. At the time, during the 10-year span, obviously, I didn't have the 1% mindset. Little did I know, I don't know if it was subliminal, but everything he did, I guess I did notice by looking. And in the back of my head, I guess my brain kept all those details and images until later on in life, I realized and noticed that this person did exactly what the 1% of people do to be successful in life. And I will always be forever grateful for witnessing it myself. So I asked this individual, is there anything he regrets in his life? And he told me he regrets that he didn't start sooner. Obviously, he was referencing to his business and changing his mindset because he did start at 50 years old, and he knew at that age that he had to do what most people do in a lifetime. So obviously he had to go above and beyond and work really hard because he had a lot of catching up to do because he believes he wasted a lot of time and he was able to accomplish it. And till this day, he is happily retired in his house, obviously living the life, work-free, stress-free, and it was worth it because all that work he put into it, it paid off. And it just shows that the hard work you put into it, you'll be rewarded. And all it takes is a change in your mindset. So who is this individual? I'm pretty sure you've been wondering throughout this whole podcast. Maybe you know or have an idea from previous podcasts of who this person is. So this person is my father. And with that being said, I cannot thank him enough because everything he's taught me, everything I witnessed, obviously to change my mindset and be successful in life, I saw what it took first-handedly, and I'm very lucky and fortunate to see it. So with that being said, thank you, Dad. Thank you for everyone for tuning in and listening to where I personally view the 1% mindset, and hopefully you get a chance to view it yourself, and if not, you can be the 1% either way, and maybe people will see you one day as a 1% and they'll reflect back and say, hey, this person had the 1% mindset. And who knows, maybe they'll come to you asking questions like I did with my father on changing your mindset and what it takes. So with that being said, thank you guys again. Take care. And as always, change your mindset to change your life.
Thank you for listening to Change Your Mindset podcast. Be sure to tune in every week for a new episode. As always, change your mindset to change your life.